At 14 books long, The Wheel of Time is one of the longest fantasy series ever published. It builds up a whole fictional world with thousands of years of history, an incredibly detailed geography, and hundreds of characters who all end up feeling like real people. When Amazon turned it into a TV show, the first season was a bit of a disappointment, perhaps unsurprisingly, removing much that was distinctive about the books and turning it into just another generic young adult fantasy. Fortunately, Season 2 is a definite improvement. It's still nowhere near as good as the books, but it's definitely getting there. This season roughly follows the plot of the second book, The Great Hunt, though it simplifies some storylines and adds others. There's a whole trip to a parallel world in the book, which feels a bit out of place and is never really referred to in future volumes, so it makes sense to cut that out. The main addition is a lengthy subplot for Moiraine, who was shielded from the One Power in Season 1 finale, and until she meets up with Rand again, her scenes are all pretty dull. Unfortunately, Rosamund Pike is the biggest name in the cast, so they will need to give her character more prominence than in the books, so this sort of thing could well keep on happening going forwards. Elsewhere, Rand's storyline is basically the same as in the books, as he gets seduced by an evil sorceress in disguise. Natasha O'Keeffe is excellent as Lanfear, as charismatic and seductive as she is ruthless and evil. But sadly, Joshua Stradowski as Rand is still a bit wooden and lacking in charisma, and doesn't get much chance to show that he's the most powerful magic user on the planet. On a more positive note, Donald Finn as Matt is a fine piece of recasting. The previous actor wasn't bad, but Finn has just the right mix of cockiness and cowardice to really bring the character to life. He has some good scenes with Min, played by Kai Alexander, but she still feels a bit underused. Marcus Rutherford as Perrin fares a lot better than he did in the first season, when he was given a dead wife and a crush on Egwene, neither of which really suited him. Here he gets to embrace his wolf side, which goes a long way to making him feel a lot more like Perrin of the books. His storyline also introduces the Aiel, who are absolutely spot on so far, and are possibly the best book-to-screen translation yet. Nynaeve and Egwene have the most faithful journey to their book counterparts, going from novices in Tar Valon to captives of the Seanchan. Each gets their own spotlight. Zoe Robbins shows her emotional range during Nynaeve's test for Accepted, which gives her an entire other life with a husband and child, only to find it all cruelly snatched away from her. It's a heartbreaking moment and played exceptionally well. And Madeline Madden has her best scenes as Egwene is tortured by the Seanchan. Her character has seemed a bit weak so far, but this storyline really brings out her inner strength. Kate Fleetwood also does stellar work as Liandrin, who turns out to be both evil and a mother, which makes her a lot more complex than the same character in the books, which makes you think that they could be given her a more prominent role in the storylines to come. As in the book, all the character stories come to a head in the final battle at Falme. The Seanchan have been built up throughout the season as a terrifying threat. Their costumes look incredible, as indeed does the location where they filmed it, and it's very satisfying to see them taken down. As happens in the books, all the characters come together at the end after being separated for the whole season, and they all get their moment to shine in the final battle. Matt becoming one of the legendary Hunters of the Horn was a big change, but it does give a useful shortcut to his future development, and it means you don't have to do any of that weird stuff with the snakes and foxes. The only slight drawback is that Rand has very little to do in the last battle. He's shielded for most of it, and then he manages to kill Ishmael with just one sword stroke. And for that he is proclaimed the Dragon Reborn, when it doesn't really feel like he's earned that title yet. So that was Season 2. It's still not exactly must-see TV, but it's damn sight better than Season 1. I would still like to see more use of the distinctive language from the books. Phrases like "you wool-headed sheep herder" and "blood and bloody ashes" really help the series to stand out from the crowd. I guess they're worried that sort of thing might sound a bit silly in live action, but they could at least give it a try. The main problem is that after 2 seasons they've only just got to the end of Book 2, and there's still 12 books left to go. So they're going to have to start doubling up at some point. The immediate problem is that Book 3 ends much the same as Book 2, with all the characters coming together for another big battle, which would make for a natural season finale. However, Rand's storyline in that book is mostly off-screen, so they could transfer his storyline from Book 4 over to Season 3 to get a bit ahead of themselves. Moghedien being introduced in the finale was a nice surprise, with Leah Costa giving a wonderfully sinister performance, so it's likely that they'll move her storyline up to Season 3 and have her battling Nynaeve and Egwene. Perrin hasn't met his love interest Fael yet, so presumably she'll show up next season as well. Maybe they'll do the storyline from book 4 where Perrin and Fiel go back to the Two Rivers and defend it from evil. Thinking about it, book 4 is where the stories start to get really good. So hopefully they'll put as much of that in next season as they can manage. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm sure I'll be covering season 3 of Wheel of Time on this channel whenever it comes out. So subscribe if you don't want to miss that. In the meantime, I will of course be covering other live action fantasy series such as House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings whenever they appear. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.